You might have been abducted by aliens and don't even know it. Look, I'm just the messenger. One of the most famous alien abductions in history happened to a woman named Linda Napolitano. In the 1980s, Linda was a regular housewife living in Manhattan with her husband and her 2 children. Then her life changed dramatically at around 3 a.m. on November 30th of 1989, when she claims she was lifted out of her bed and through her window by 3 little gray creatures. She then found herself inside of what she described as a spaceship. She then claims they brought her to some kind of room, laid her down on a table, and then started to perform experiments on her. The most unbelievable part of this entire thing was that 23 people came forward claiming they witnessed Linda floating in the sky that night near the Brooklyn Bridge. Yes, 23 people came forward to corroborate her story. Soon after, Linda hit headlines. This story was huge. According to Linda, on this night, she was just lying in bed with her husband when she suddenly woke up and felt deep in her bones that something was terribly wrong. According to her, she could sense something was in the room. Linda said that these beings told her to be quiet through some kind of telepathic language. Then out of nowhere, before she could even think, a bright light shone through her window. What the fuck was that? And then she was lifted off of her bed and glided out of her window with ease. All she could remember was gliding through the night sky into what she described as a large oval-shaped spaceship. And inside, they brought her to an examination room. She said that all she could remember was that she was laying on this table, and then the beings took this metallic device, this strange device, and shoved it up her nose. And this is when she woke up back in bed with her husband, not knowing how she got back into her apartment. At first, Linda thought that her scary experience was just a vivid dream. However, she felt a strange lump inside of her nose. She states that she then visited a doctor for help, and the doctor suggested to take some x-rays. This is when they both discovered that something was stuck inside of Linda's nose. Linda said that when she was on this examination table with these aliens, they stuck something inside of her nose, and this was the last thing she remembered before waking back up at home. Later, Linda visits a nose and throat specialist, and they discover that there's nothing in her nose anymore. Like, there's nothing in there. But there was cartilage buildup, which suggested that there might have been something lodged there before. Linda Napolitano took her story to Bud Hopkins, who was a UFOologist with decades of experience. And in 1996, a few years after Linda's so-called abduction, he actually publishes a book about Linda's story called Witnessed. Then something happens that really shocks people, really makes people start to think. The author, Bud Hopkins, of the story Witnessed, received a surprising and strange letter in the mail. It was allegedly from 2 men that were bodyguards who went by the names Richard and Dan. They claim that a few years earlier, in the early morning hours of November 30th, the night of the abduction of Linda Napolitano, they were in Manhattan, parked under FDR Drive, when they saw 3 figures and a woman in a long white nightgown floating through the sky. They were just in complete and utter shock and confusion, like, what the fuck are we looking at? They claim they felt bad for not helping her, but I mean, if you see someone floating in the sky, what much can you do? Like, what really can you say? Absolutely nothing. But like, in reality, what would you do in that situation? Like, what are you actually going to say? You're gonna call police and say, hey, there's a woman in the sky, she's flying, and there's 3 gray little goblin creature thingies around her. Come do something about it. Like, I'd feel bad for not helping too, but like, like, really, what are you going to do? Tell me what you would do. Because there's actually a new documentary coming out soon, I believe this year, and I think it's going to be on Netflix. Fact check it, look it up. I don't know for sure. And it actually is going to be having the original Linda Napolitano. I know I'm butchering her last name. I know I am. I think it's gonna be on Netflix. I'm so excited to watch it. But have you guys ever had like a strange experience in the middle of the night? Like, where you couldn't explain it, or like something like happened in the middle of the night where, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it like completely right to where like it makes sense, but do you think you've ever been abducted by an alien?